notice for a motion. The Honorable Faber.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move that we debate that South Africa, in the next sitting, that South Africa has the highest number of embassies abroad, second only to the USA, which has 126. The cost, a cool 3.2 billion per annum. The explanation given by spokesperson Clayton Monyela was that South Africa's trade with the world has gone through the roof because of the work of our missions do. I believe that Mr. Monyela must be mistaking this with the work of DTI and companies marketing themselves overseas. Salaries account for 1.9 billion. 1.3 billion was spent on goods and services. The reality is that the location of the most expensive missions was not aligned with the trade relations or other economic interests. The DA believes that there is a need to review our missions in order to save costs and make them relevant to economic diplomacy, investment in South Africa, and by doing so, create the much-needed jobs this country needs. I so move.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to make the Honorable Clarke?
Honorable Chairperson, I rise without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that this House notes with sadness the tragic bus accident on the N3 between Warden and Harrismith in the Free State that left 3-year-old twin toddlers dead and 19 others injured. As reported in the media, the bus they were traveling in burst into flames on last Friday afternoon due to unknown cause. That this House further call for the Premier of the Free State, the Honorable Ace Magashule, to speedily investigate the root cause of the accident so that where negligence is found to have played a role, suspect face process of the law. Further convey the condolences of this House to the family of the deceased twins toddlers during this trying and difficult moment. I so move.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any, the Honorable Mpambo Shibukwana?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chairperson, it's notices of motion. Am I right?
It is.
Yes. Honorable Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a notice of motion that at the next sitting, the Council debates the impact of water crisis that has extended and impacted negatively on the school nutrition programs, with an emphasis of the strategies of the Department of Basic Education in place to ensure learner programs and exams are not compromised. I so move. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable Makwe.
Chairperson, I have a motion without notice.
Okay. We are still at notices. The Honorable Kaula, are you at a notice? Honorable members, if there is no other member who has a notice of a motion, we will pass on. And before I do so, I do wish to inform the House that we do have a new member. You are not. The honorable members will remember that we did not announce, but the Honorable Groenewald resigned, is not lost to us at a national level. We now have Honorable Chris Hutton from the Northwest replacing the Honorable Groenewald. You are welcome, sir. Honorable members, are you at a notice? Notice of a motion? Okay. Honorable members, we then proceed to motions without notice. Maybe I should start this way and go this way. The Honorable van Lingen, followed by Honorable Mikilaikas. Honorable Cheryl Blanche? No.
Honorable Chairperson, may I continue?
Yes, ma'am, you are on the floor.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that the Council notes that the Paradise Beach Neighbourhood Watch, the chairperson of AfriForum and the Paradise Beach Residents Association in Koga Municipality took up their spades to repair the Paradise Beach potholes themselves. After a long-standing battle with the ANC-governed Koga Municipality, who continuously cuts the budget on maintenance rather than the nice-to-haves, the community stepped in. Paradise Beach is not the only portion of the ward where there are potholes, but it is the second time these residents had to stand up for their rights, and they have done a spectacular job. The House congratulates Paradise Beach Neighbourhood Watch, AfriForum and the residents. We are proud of these citizens who are prepared to roll up their sleeves to fix Koga and South Africa. I so move.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any objection to this motion? Motion has been objected to. The Honourable Mikilaikis.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that this Council notes the 13 November attacks on Paris, for which ISIL has claimed responsibility. That the Council condemns the murder of the innocent victims as an attack on the entire civilized world and all of humanity. In this, we also stand in solidarity with the people of Cameroon, Nigeria, and Lebanon. And finally, that the Council sends its condolences to the French Republic and the families of all who lost their lives. Nous sommes Paris. I so move.
Thank you, sir. Is there any objection to this motion? None. The motion is carried. The Honourable Engelbrecht.
Madam Speaker,
Chairperson.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that the Council
Order, members. There's a new member on the floor. Please continue, ma'am. Start all over.
It is on. That due to the reduced OPEX and CAPEX budget of the city of Tshwane, the upgrading and provision of sufficient water treatment capacity is not taking place in the Tshwane municipality in the Themba-Hammanskraal area. This has caused an increase in the pathogenic organisms in the water, drinking water, and a reduction in the effluent quality of the drinking water, and has subsequently negatively affected the health and well-being of the people within this area of Hammanskraal. We therefore call upon the Minister of Water and Sanitation to ensure a full analysis of the effluent quality of the drinking water, with an emphasis on compliance with national standards and consideration of the well-being of all South Africans, and especially those in the Hammanskraal area. I so move.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any objection? Is there any objection? There is an objection, members. We move on to the Honourable Kaula.
Ngiyathokoza, sihlalo hloniphekile. On behalf of the Inkatha Freedom Party, I move without notice that at the next sitting, the House continue to congratulate Inkatha Freedom Party on bringing back to its fold yet again another municipality, Mthonjane municipality in KwaZulu-Natal. As others continue to march slowly on their road to vanishing and completely disappearing in the South African political platform, the IFP is steadily and surely on its march to bring back what belongs to the IFP. The IFP victory in Mthonjane municipality is another indication of the crumbling, unholy marriage between the ANC and the NFP in KZN. The House notes that KZN MEC for Kokta tried to use backhanded tactics to derail the IFP at Mthonjane, and a false bomb scare was pronounced on the day the IFP mayor was elected. We condemn this petty political desperation of those hell-bent to undermine democracy and the will of the people. The IFP and Prince Mangosuthu Buthelez's leadership of integrity and trustworthiness is once again withstanding the greatest test of time. Ziyabuyiselwa izinto zikaMntwana. I so move.
Thank you, sir. Is there any objection to this motion? There is an objection, sir. The Honourable Makwe.
Honourable
Order.
Chairperson, allow me to raise on behalf of the African National Congress to give a motion without notice that this House notes the barbaric, inhuman and abhorrent act of brutal murder of innocent civilians in different areas within the city of Paris over the recent weekend. That the nature and execution of these attacks clearly shows high level of organization and planning on behalf of the executors, which poses a serious threat to international peace and security. Further noting that continued conflicts in different parts of the world, especially the Arab states and the Middle East, and the post-war instability in Libya and other parts of the world that were ravaged by imperialist wars, believing that mass migration from these countries also poses a threat to host countries. Reaffirm the African National Congress policy on international solidarity for the eradication of underdevelopment, poverty and conflict as a sustainable solution to world peace and security. The ANC therefore condemns in strongest possible terms all acts of terrorism against innocent civilians and calls on the South African development community and the United Nations Security Council to speedily facilitate ceasefire and peace in the countries ravaged by wars of devastations. I so move.
Honorable members, this motion is almost the same as the motion read out by the Honorable Mikilakis. Elements of this motion, however, are new. I am, however, going to put the question, is there any objection to this motion which has new elements to what the Honorable Mikilakis posed, which you did not oppose? Is there an objection to this further motion? There is an objection. We move on to the Honorable Prince.
I hereby move without notice that Council notes that the Government of South Africa has allocated more than
Into the mic, please, ma'am.
700 million over the next 3 years for the rollout of broadband access to townships in rural areas. Further notes that the Deputy Minister of Telecommunications and Postal Services, Slengiwe Makise, said that the government have a huge role to play in the ITC sector, especially in initiatives such as broadband rollout and ensuring connectivity across all households and schools, particularly in rural communities. Also notes that the government targets in terms of the NDP are to achieve 100% broadband penetration by 2020 and transform 70% of the frontline services to the e-service by 2019. Therefore, congratulates the South African government for its plans to invest in townships in rural areas as well as for e-government schools and healthy connectivity. I so move.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there an objection to this motion? There's no objection. The Honorable Mateis.
Thank you, Chairperson. I rise on behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters that Council notes the medium-term budget policy statement delivered by the Gauteng MEC on the 17th of November 2015 as follows. She reaffirmed the Gauteng government misguided pursuit of the neoliberal policies currently referred to as the National Development Plan. It is well known that there has been several name changes to these neoliberal policies, yet every little change has provided very little improvement to the economic landscape of our country over the past 21 years, yet the government remains hell-bent on it. Her department is also all about e-commerce, with the majority of the budget being allocated to ICT tenders. The best budget remains anti-poor with no real economic transformation targets or plans to re-industrialize Gauteng. And while the MEC claims to have considered the daily plight of Gauteng, or the people of Gauteng rather, she then unsurprisingly stated that the rejected e-tolls by the Gauteng residents will continue. And not only is it going to continue, but the Gauteng government is going to contribute, guess how much? 123 million rand to this. And it's a shameful pity that the Gauteng government has proved it cannot fight for its citizens against Luthuli House. Effectively, it has now declared it will contribute to e-toll's corruption saga, depriving Gauteng residents of 123 million that could be allocated for essential services lacking in the province. I so move.
Your time has expired, ma'am. Thank you very much. Is there no objection to this motion? Motion objected to. The Honorable Labuskaghni.
Motion without notice. Honourable Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that the Council notes the Chairperson of SAA, Duduzile Mnyeni, quotes in Business Day as saying that the current economic slump has negatively affected all countries. SAA performed poorly during this slump in comparison to other international airlines. It made a loss in each of the last 3 years, 2012 to 2014, totaling 1.5 billion. Seven CEOs in 3 years does not constitute effective management. In comparison, the financial year ending 31st March 2015 saw the Emirates Group achieve its 27th consecutive year of profit despite numerous external challenges. Turkish Airlines posted a 12.7% increase in operating profit in 2014 over previous year to $11 billion. It was also voted best airline in Europe for 4 consecutive years from 2011. Turkish Airlines shareholding structure is 50% are publicly traded and 49% is held by the Prime Ministry Privatization Administration. This House therefore notes that state-operated enterprises do not always contribute to economic growth. New models of ownership must be considered. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any objection to this motion? Objected to. The Honorable Faber.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move that South Africa is in serious trouble under a president who openly undermined the Constitution and openly admitted that the ANC comes before this country. President Nelson Mandela always emphasized that South Africa came first. You must listen to this, members. He led a government of national unity and not an ANC government. His successor, President Thabo Mbeki, went further by embracing the entire continent and put South Africa and the whole of Africa first. It is clear that President Zuma has never taken his oath of office serious, even though he swore to uphold the Constitution and defend its values and principles, and repeatedly acted in the opposite manner. I therefore note that President Zuma is an embarrassment to South Africa and a serious impediment to economic growth by putting the ANC before his own country. I so move.
Thank you, sir. Is there any objection to this motion? Objected to. The Honorable Ntileni.
I rise on behalf of the EFF to move without notice that the House or the Council knows that the Deputy President of this Republic is known for many things, amongst which is his cunning ability to make money, regardless whether he makes that money outside of accepted ethical practices or consequences of those involved. Further knows that the Deputy President was appointed as a special envoy to sort out the mess in Lesotho. But through to type, he saw an opportunity to make money out of the tragedy in that country. Acknowledges that through his association with Bidvest, the Deputy President has managed to strike a deal with the Lesotho government to rent out fleet to the government of Lesotho.
Is that a point of
Further
order?
note that acknowledges that the Deputy President has also moved
Honorable
to
Mtileni, there
monopolize-
is a point of order. Please hold your horses. Honorable Mhaip.
Madam Chair, the Speaker is distorting information to this House, which officially, in response to this House, factual information about Lesotho was given. So it's a distortion of facts, really. is misleading the House.
Is that a point of order on a point of order, Honorable
Rule on the matter because the matter has since served in the House. So he's deliberately misleading the House.
Yeah, I'm addressing the Honorable Mukwena behind you. Honorable Mukwena, are you doing a point of order on a point of order?
I'm doing a point of order on a non-point of order.
No.
Because that is not, it's not a point of order. The honorable member here can make any statement that he wants. If the honorable member feels that there's a problem with the statement, they can object.
That is okay. Order, members, can I rule on this matter? Honorable Mtileni. Honorable Mtileni, I'm addressing you. Please continue with your motion. Keep to the facts. As you know them, the House will judge the rest. Please continue.
Thank you. Further acknowledges that the Deputy President has also moved to monopolize the meter taxi industry in Lesotho through investing in meter taxis, wrestling away from struggling Lesotho people control of their own transport industry. I further call on the government of Lesotho to think for their people first and eject Ramaphosa from Lesotho. Further calls on the Deputy President to have a conscience and recognize that many of the people who were killed as a result of his greed in Marikana were from Lesotho. He must now leave the people of Lesotho alone. Further calls on South African people to reject the ANC that Ramaphosa represents the ANC during the 2016 local government elections.
Thank you, sir.
Reject Ramaphosa, reject corruption.
Honorable
I so
Mtileni.
move.
Honorable Order. Honorable members, is there any objection to this motion? There is objection. Honorable members, you've got the protection of the House. Please ensure that with that protection, you keep to the facts. Because if you are found not to have kept strictly to the truth and to the facts, the protection of this House will not go far. So I'm simply saying, always make sure that you are not seen to have misled the House or the public in the statements you make in the House. That motion was objected to. My last member for motions, for notices of motions without notices of motion is Mayor Mpambo Shibukwan. I didn't see your hand.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that this House knows the DA has reported the MEC Nancy Slwai to the Eastern Cape Legislature Ethics Committee for racism and human rights violation. The racism of ANC MEC Slwai is segregating the youth on the basis of race, has exposed the ANC as an organization that is not working for non-racial future for South Africa. Slwai's instruction to exclude white children from a government youth.
Honorable Slwai.
Honorable Slwai, from the youth event is nothing but pure racism. There is no place for racial segregation 21 years into our democratic nation. We expect the Legislature Ethics Committee to take swift action to investigate and sanction Honorable MEC Slwai. I so move.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any objection to this motion? Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable Hutton, your maiden.
Thank you.
Order, members.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that this House notes the passing on of Jonah Lomu on Wednesday, 18th of November, yesterday, in Auckland, New Zealand. That the legendary Jonah Lomu
one of the international rugby's all-time greats, represented the All Blacks in 63 tests between 1994 and 2002, and at the age of 19 years and 45 days, he became the youngest player to represent New Zealand, breaking a 90-year-old record. He will be remembered for his role in the 1995 Rugby World Cup, and specifically in the final after New Zealand being defeated by South Africa, where he solely remained on the field and shook every Springbok's hand. That in August 2015, he said, "I don't have any regrets. Everything that I have achieved in rugby, I cherished. I was in a World Cup final in South Africa against South Africa when a country became one. As Francois Pienaar, the then Springbok captain, said, it was not 80,000 people in the stadium, it was 44 million. This house honors the legacy of Mr. Lomo and sends condolences to the All Black team and his family. I so move."
Thank you, sir. Is there any objection to this motion? Thank you very much. Honorable members, are there any further motions without notice? None? Thank you very much. Will the secretary read the first order of the day?
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Security and Justice. A proclamations made in terms of Section 25 of the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorist and Related Activities Act 2004, Act number 33 of 2004.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable Qimbi. I can't see him. Order. Honorable Qimbi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you very much. Chairperson, this is the report of the Select Committee on Security and Justice on proclamations made in terms of Section 25 of the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorist and Related Activities, Act number 33 of 2004, dated 28th October 2015. Chair, it has become imperative to ensure that Al-Qaeda and the Taliban and related terrorist groups are denied the most important facilities required in order to commit terrorist acts, namely funding, access to weapons, and the ability to travel freely. The United Nations Security Council has set up a sanctions committee which must list individuals and entities who are part of or linked to Al-Qaeda and Taliban. Member states of the United Nations are obliged in terms of Chapter 7 of the UN Charter to give effect to the following on respect of individuals and entities so listed by means of enforcing in respect of such individuals, group, or entities. 1, assets freely, arms embargo, travel ban. The protection of constitutional democracy against terrorist and related activities, Act number 33 of 2004, provides for enforcement of these sanctions. Article 25 of the United Nations Charter. The members of the United Nations agreed to accept and carry out the decision of the Security Council in accordance with the present Charter. Section 231(3) of the South African Constitution, an international agreement of the technical, administrative, or executive nature, or an agreement which does not require either ratification or accession entered in by national executive binds the Republic without approval by the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, but must be tabled in the Assembly and Council within reasonable time. Chairperson, the protection of constitutional democracy against terrorists and related activities provides for the following: to provide for measures to prevent and combat terrorists and related activities, to provide for an offense of terrorists and other offenses associated or connected with the terrorist activities, to provide for convention offenses, to give effect to international instruments dealing with terrorists and related activities, to provide for a mechanism to comply with United Nations Security Council resolutions which are binding on member states in respect of terrorists and related activities, to provide for measures for prevent and combat the financing of terrorists and related activities, to provide for investigative measures in respect of terrorists and related activities, and to provide for matters connected within. The notification by the President in respect of entities identified by United Nations Security Council under Section 25 of the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorists and Related Activities, which is Act number 33 of 2000, are legislative mandated through a government gazette proclamation. Chairperson, the notification by the President entitled entities identified by United Nations Security, the President must proclaim in the Gazette and other appropriate means of publication, give notice that the Security Council of the United Nations, under Chapter 7 of the Charter of the United Nations, shall identify a specific entity as being A, an entity who commits or attempts to commit any terrorist and related activity or participates in or facilitates the commission or any terrorist and related activities, or B, an entity who commits or attempts to commit an entity against whom member states of the United Nations must take actions specified in resolution of the said Security Council in order to combat or prevent terrorist and related activities. Chairperson, the Select Committee on Security and Justice received a briefing on the proclamation made in terms of Section 25 of the Protection of the Constitutional Democracy. Terrorists are related activities. Therefore, the committee chairperson of Security and Justice reports that it has concluded its deliberation on the proclamation made in terms of Section 25 of the Protection of the Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorists and Related Activities, and recommends that the National Council of Provinces approve the proclamation. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, sir. That being the only speaker on this item, I shall proceed to put the question, and the question is that this report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow the provinces an opportunity to make their declarations if they so wish before they vote. Do provinces wish to make declarations? No? We shall then proceed to the voting on the question, and I shall do so in alphabetical order. Heads of delegations shall vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain buttons. We proceed. The Eastern Cape.
Ngosi sihlala ngaphambili Eastern Cape iyayamkela lengxelo.
Free State.
Free State agrees.
Gauteng.
Gauteng agrees.
KwaZulu-Natal.
Soldadana Grace.
Limpopo,
Limpopo le amagalana le pego.
Mpumalanga,
Mpumalanga, Chris, Honorable Chair.
the Northern Cape,
Cape Grace, Chair.
the Northwest,
Grace, Chair.
the Western Cape.
Ondersteun.
Thank you very much. All 9 provinces have voted, and all 9 provinces are in favor. So in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution, this report has been carried. The Secretary will then read the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th orders of the day. Secretary.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs on the following interventions. Notice of termination of intervention issued in terms of Section 139(1)(b) of the Constitution in Umvoti Local Municipality. Notice of termination of intervention issued in terms of Section 139(a) in Tuba Local Municipality. Notice of termination of intervention issued in terms of Section 139(1)(c) in Mpofana Local Municipality. Local inspection on notice of intervention issued in terms of Section 139(1)(b) in Indaka Local Municipality. Notice of investigation in terms of Section 106(3)(a) of the Local Government Municipal Systems Act number 32 of 2000 in Tlabisa Local Municipality. Notice of termination of intervention issued in terms of Section 139(1)(b) of the Constitution in Abakulusi Local Municipality. In local inspection on notice of extension of the intervention issued in terms of Section 139(1)(b) of the Constitution in Imbabazana Local Municipality.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable Mohapi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, allow me to present before this House a consolidated report of termination of intervention, invocation of Section 106 of the Municipal Systems Act, also invocation of Section 139, subsection 1B in Indaka, and the extension of termination in Imbabazane. Chairperson, on the 21st of October 2015, during in-local inspection on the notice of intervention in terms of Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution at Indaka Local Municipality, the Select Committee invited the Provincial Department of COCTA to come and brief its members on the termination of intervention in terms of Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution at Umvoti, Mtubatuba, Mpofana, Abakulusi Local Municipality, with invocation of Section 106 of Municipal Systems Act in Tlabisa Local Municipality and extension of intervention in Babazani Local Municipality. Chairperson, in Umvoti, the initial resolution of the PC to intervene at Umvoti Local Municipality was taken on the 17th of July 2013, following the emergence of destabilizing problems within the Municipal Council, whose history can be traced as far back as November 2012. On the 25th of June 2015, the PEC resolved to terminate the intervention at Umvoti Local Municipality after having considered a report to the effect that most of the key indicators of the exit plan have been achieved. Chair, the municipal political stability has been retained in Umvoti with the organogram reviewed and approved, staff audit, head count in the employ of the council finalized. The systems, policies, and procedures have been put in place, resulting into the municipality successfully renegotiating a 2-year commitment of 64 million, out of which 12 million has been committed for 2014-15 financial year, whilst 25 million would be used during the 2015-2016 financial year. All this signifies improvement in the functionality of the municipality to the extent of other institutions of government regaining their confidence in the municipality. The Select Committee has observed and noted that the intervention was terminated on the 30th of June 2015 in terms of the Provincial Executive Council resolution dated the 25th of June 2015. Based on the back-to-basic assessment results to date, the municipality is indeed one of those that will be recommended for graduation from those requiring intervention to either the challenged or functional municipality. Chair, the recommendation of the Select Committee is as follows: that the NCOP approves the intervention in Voti local municipality in terms of Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution, and that the Department of Cocta in KwaZulu-Natal should table outstanding forensic investigation report in terms of Section 106 of the Local Government Municipal Systems Act to the NCOP and the KwaZulu-Natal. In terms of termination of intervention in Tuba local municipality, on the 30th of January, the PC resolved to institute the intervention in terms of Section 139, subsection 1C of the Constitution in Tuba local municipality. This was after several extension of interventions, and it became clear that the resources employed by the provincial authorities in that municipality were not commensurate with the outcomes achieved. This was approved by both the Minister and the NCOP in February 2015. The intervention lasted until the 7th of May 2015, when the new municipal council was declared elected in terms of IEC. Chair, the main reasons for termination of the intervention is that the municipal council has operated effectively and harmoniously. Since the election in May 2015, there's been no major political protest reported since the new council was declared elected. The ministerial reps has, together with the acting municipal manager, incorporated into the exit strategy the back to basics support plan of the municipality. The monitoring of the latter plan is undertaken by both provincial and national Department of Cocta. Chair, the Select Committee noted with concern the National Government Department, mainly Public Works, Home Affairs, SAPS, and Department of Justice, which were not settling their debt with the municipality. It should be pointed that there's a moral responsibility for the national government to make sure that it does not undermine the financial sustainability of another level of government. The initiative by Provincial Treasury, which has undertaken to assist the municipality in this regard, is about a commitment to fulfill the moral responsibility. Chair, the Select Committee, having considered the report, recommend to NCOP as follows: that the NCOP approves the termination of intervention in Tuba local municipality in terms of Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution, 1A of the Constitution, and that the Department of Cocta in KwaZulu-Natal should table the monitoring report on the implementation of exit strategy that has been incorporated with the Back to Basics plan of the municipality to NCOP and KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Legislature. Chair, on intervention in Mpovana local municipality, the Mpovana local municipality experienced a series of incidents of labor unrest and community protest actions last year. They were alleged caused by poor governance and political tensions within the council. The municipality was also experiencing serious financial difficulties arising from cash flow problems and mismanagement of funds. Based on this background, the PC instituted Section 139, subsection 1C of intervention in Mpovana in September 2014. Dissolution, being a measure of last resort, Chair, after all measures of support have been unsuccessful, is the only corrective measure to ensure that appropriate steps are taken that would resolve the problems in the municipality. It is necessary corrective measure since the municipality has failed to govern and thus prone to jeopardize the enterprise of development and stability of the community. The newly Mpovana local municipality council was elected on the 26th of November 2014. This resulted in the intervention in terms of Section 139, subsection 1C of the Constitution terminating automatically. During February 2015, the PC resolved to terminate the intervention on the strength of Mpovana local municipality, having made considerable progress on its exit strategy and had complied with the terms of reference. This was based on some of the following factors. Sporadic service delivery protests were promptly addressed. There was an improvement in meeting legislative compliance deadlines. Despite the ability to manage MIG and other grants remaining weak, the municipality was one of the 49 municipalities across the province that has spent 90 to 100% of their 2014-2015 MIG allocations. Chairperson, the Select Committee, having deliberated on this matter, said the following: a hands-on approach is needed in municipalities like Mpovana in order to strengthen intergovernmental arrangement in the delivery of services, collaborative planning, and oversight within the system of cooperative governance. Mpovana will require ongoing hand-holding over the next term. Such hand-holding by Provincial Department of Cocta will require massive resources. The Select Committee therefore recommends as following: that the NCOP approves the termination of intervention in Mpovana local municipality in terms of Section 139, subsection 1C of the Constitution. That KwaZulu-Natal Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs should table quarterly reports to NCOP and the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Legislature in terms of the support that would be provided to the municipality. Chair, in terms of invocation of Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution in Indaka local municipality, on the 29th of July 2015, the KwaZulu-Natal PEC reinstated Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution at Indaka local municipality, which was terminated in March this year. It should be remembered that the municipality was under administration in terms of Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution from January to March 2015. Before that, the municipality was under intervention in terms of Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution from November 2009 until December 2013. Chair, the placing of Indaka under Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution was an extraordinary measure due to the extent deteriorating of governance and administration at the municipality, and compounded by the murder of Indaka's municipal manager in cold blood on the 16th of July 2015 after making serious allegations against several members of Indaka Municipal Council. Chair, the department has noted that when the initial Section 139 intervention, which had been instituted in 2009, was terminated in March this year due to the municipality showing progress and having completed 73 out of 95 key performance areas in its exit strategy. The municipality has also received an unqualified audit opinion from Auditor General for the period of 2013-2014. Comfort was found in the fact that Indaka was going to amalgamate with Mnambiti municipality as part of upcoming redemarcation plan for 2016. But even the transitional processes at this municipality have been plagued with irregularities, such as the failure of councillors and officials to participate in the legally constituted change management committees. Chair, the Select Committee, having deliberated on this matter, has observed that interventions have yielded good results in the past. For example, in 2013-14 financial year, the municipality moved from a disclaimer to an unqualified audit opinion. The allegation of failure by Indaka municipal councillors and officials to participate in the legally constituted change management committee, which oversees the preparation for measure with Mnabiti local municipality, was a serious concern. If not corrected, will harm the interests of both the municipality. The Select Committee condemned with strong terms the killing of the Indaka municipal manager and called upon any person with information on the circumstances that led to the brutal crime to approach the law enforcement agencies. Chairperson, the Select Committee therefore recommends the following: that NSUP approves the intervention in Indaka local municipality in terms of Section 139, subsection 1B of the Constitution, that SALGA, in collaboration with the Department of COCTA, should spearhead and expedite the capacity building program of municipal councillors and officials in the office of the mayor. There should be a dedicated budget and established youth and women's desk to deal with programs related to youth and women within Indaka municipality. The KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs should table quarterly progress report to both the NCOP and the provincial legislature on the status of intervention in the municipality, including the termination of the intervention report. Chairperson, in terms of the investigation in terms of Section 106 of the Municipal Systems Act in Hlabisa local municipality, on the 21st of October 2015, the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs received a briefing from the Provincial Department of COCTA in KwaZulu-Natal on the invocation of Section 106, subsection 3A of the Systems Act in Hlabisa local municipality. The department received allegations from members of public, SANCO, SAMU relating to Hlabisa area in respect of fraud, allegations of fraud, corruption and maladministration occurring in the municipality. The department conducted a preliminary investigation. As a result, finalized the scope of the investigation. Deliberations of the Select Committee is that corruption and maladministration have serious consequences for service delivery and will eventually directly affect the lives of the poor. This problem is particularly prevalent at local government level. Therefore, Section 106 of the Systems Act is an important tool in the provincial government's arsenal in the fight against fraud and corruption. Chair, the Select Committee therefore recommends the following: that NCOP knows the preliminary report on the limitation and challenges related to forensic investigations in terms of Section 106, subsection 3A of the Local Government Municipal Systems Act in Hlabisa local municipality, and that the Department of COCTA in KwaZulu-Natal should table the final report immediately after the completion of the forensic investigation to both the NCOP and the KwaZulu-Natal provincial legislature. Chair, in terms of intervention in Abaxolusi local municipality, the initial resolution to intervene in Abaxolusi local municipality in terms of section 139 subsection 1B of the Constitution was taken on the 20th of March 2013. The municipality was failing to fulfill its executive obligation. The intervention was extended on several occasions by the Executive Council due to slow progress in the implementation of the recovery plan. The decision of the Provincial Executive Council to terminate the intervention on 31st of March 2015 was influenced by report progress as at February 2015. Chair, the outstanding resolution of litigation regarding the appointment of the municipal manager has now been settled out of court, thus enabling the easy of recruitment of the position of municipal manager. The municipality has, subsequent to the termination of intervention in March 2015, being able to have its IDP budget as the BIP approved without any challenges. The municipal's financial position has improved significantly, and as at the date of the Select Committee's oversight and briefing by the Provincial Cocta, it had a positive bank balance of 18.5 million and investments amounting to 79 million. Political stability in the council is equally the reason why the municipality is now fully functional, with 8 out of 9 targets outlined in the municipal recovery plan. Chair, the situation has equally led to the municipality receiving an unqualified audit opinion for 2013-2014 financial year, thus signifying a fundamental improvement from the previous year, wherein it received a disclaimer of audit opinion in 2011-2012 year and a quality audit opinion in 2012-2013. Chair, the Select Committee has observed and noted, based on the departmental briefing, that it's been 6 months since the intervention was lifted and there's been no out of the ordinary challenges at the municipality. Based on the back-to-basic assessment result to date, the municipality is indeed one of those that will be recommended for graduation from the requiring intervention to either the challenged or functional municipalities under back-to-basics. Chair, the Select Committee therefore recommend the following: that the NCOP approves the termination of intervention in Abaxolusi local municipality in terms of section 139 subsection 1B of the Constitution. Chair, in terms of the last matter, extension of intervention in Mbabazane. The Mbabazane local municipality has been under intervention in terms of section 139 subsection 1B of the Constitution since January 2013. The intervention has been extended on several occasions due to poor progress and in some cases due to emerging challenges. The PC resolved on the 16th of September 2015 to extend the intervention to 30th of March 2016. Notwithstanding the progress made during the intervention, there were emerging challenges in the municipality which necessitated that the intervention be sustained further to mitigate the risk of the municipality sliding back to pre-intervention chaos. Chair, the Municipal Council initiated an investigation into allegation of misconduct by the municipal manager and the general manager corporate services. It was alleged that both officials irregularly increased the salaries of various staff members by 2,000 each per month. The salary increments were effected from February 2015, backdated to July 2014. Chair, the Select Committee has observed that in order to assist the Change Management Committee of the municipality during the period of measure, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs should assist with business plans to access the restructuring grant. An amount of 8.1 million per CMC has been applied from National Treasury to complete the restructuring processes at CMC level. A further amount of 50 million was applied from National Treasury to find pay parity within the newly merged municipalities. Chairperson, the Select Committee, having looked at the presentation made before it, has got the following recommendations to make before the NCOP: that the NCOP approves the extension of intervention in Mbabazane local municipality in terms of section 139 subsection 1B of the Constitution, and that the Department of Cocta table quarterly progress report on the support provided to Change Management Committee of the municipality during the period of the measure, and that the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs should table quarterly progress report to the NCOP and the provincial legislature on the status of extension of intervention in the municipality, including the termination of intervention. Chairperson, I wish to present before the NCOP that the following reports be approved as recommended. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. Order. I shall now put the question in respect of the second order. And the question is that this report on the second order be agreed to. Do provinces wish to make declarations? No. In accordance with Rule 71, we shall proceed to the voting on the question, and I shall do so in alphabetical order, starting with the Eastern Cape.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Eastern Cape, iyayamkela le ngxelo.
Thank you, sir. The Free State.
Free State approves.
Thank you, ma'am. Gauteng.
Gauteng support.
Thank you.
KwaZulu-Natal vote in favor.
Thank you, sir.
Limpopo le amogela pego modulasetulo.
Ra leboga Mpumalanga.
Malanga agrees to the report, Chair.
Ra leboga ntate Northern Cape.
The Northern Cape agrees, Chair.
Ra leboga the Northwest.
We prima waithega.
Ra leboga the Western Cape.
Siyaxhasa.
Siyabonga. Honorable members, all 9 provinces have voted in favor. Therefore, the report is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I shall now proceed to put the question in respect of the third order of the day, and it is that this report also be agreed to. Do any provinces wish to make? None? We then proceed to vote if no province wishes to make any declaration, and I shall proceed to call provinces in alphabetical order, starting with the Eastern Cape.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Eastern Cape, iyayamkela le ngxelo.
Free State.
Thank you, Chairperson. Free State amogela.
Gauteng.
Gauteng support.
KZN.
KwaZulu-Natal vote in favor.
Limpopo.
Re amogela ka tla tshepedi modulasetulo.
Mpumalanga.
Nathi Mpumalanga sihlala siyavumelana.
Northern Cape.
The Northern Cape agrees, Chair.
The Northwest.
Northwest agree.
The Western Cape.
Verstaan?
Thank you. Honorable members, all 9 provinces have voted in favor. Therefore, the question has been carried in terms of Section 65. I shall proceed to put the question in respect of the 4th order, and the question is that this report be agreed to. Do any provinces wish to make declarations before they vote? None. We proceed to the vote. The Eastern Cape.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Eastern Cape, iyayixhasa le ngxelo.
The Free State.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The Free State yadume.
Ra leboga mme Gauteng.
Gauteng support.
Thank you. KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal vote in favor.
Siyavuma.
Limpopo modulasetulo le amogela.
Ikensile.
Mpumalanga agrees, Chair.
Ahe.
Agrees. The Northern
Thank you.
Cape agrees, Chair.
Northwest.
Northwest agree.
Ra leboga the Western Cape.
The Western Cape support.
Thank you. All 9 provinces have voted in favor. Therefore, the question has been agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I shall now put the question in respect of the 5th order, and it is that this report also be agreed to. Does any province wish to make a declaration? None. We proceed to vote. Eastern Cape.
Nkosi, Honorable. Samir. Nkosi, Honorable Chairperson, Eastern Cape, iyayixhasa le ngxelo.
Siyabonga tata. Free State.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Free State agrees.
Ra leboga Gauteng.
Gauteng support.
Re lebogile. KZN.
KZN vote in favor.
Siyabonga Limpopo.
Ndiyakhenza mtshamasetulo.
Re leboga Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga agrees, Chair.
Re leboga ntate Northern
The
Cape.
Northern Cape supports, Chair.
Re leboga Morena Northwest.
Northwest iyayithega.
Re leboga Western Cape.
We support.
Re leboga Western Cape. All 9 provinces have voted in favor. Therefore, the report has been carried in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I shall proceed to put the question in respect of the 6th order, and it is that this report also be agreed to. Does any province wish to make a declaration before it votes? None. We proceed to the vote. The Eastern Cape.
Ngosi mhlali ngaphambili obekekileyo i-Eastern Cape iyayixhasa nale ngxelo.
Siyabonga tata, the Free State.
Free State iyadumela.
Ra leboga mme Gauteng.
Gauteng supports.
Ra leboga ausi Honorable the KZN.
KZN vote in favor.
Siyabonga tata. Limpopo. Ra leboga mme
Mpumalanga
Mpumalanga.
Grisja.
Ra leboga ntate.
Northern Cape supports, Chair.
Ra leboga Mrena. Northwest.
Northwest support.
Ra leboga Mrena. Western Cape.
Weskaap ondersteun.
Ra leboga mme. Honorable members, all 9 provinces have once again agreed to, and therefore the report has been agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I proceed to put the question in respect of the 7th order, and it is that this report be agreed to. Is there any province which wishes to make declarations? None. We proceed with the vote. The Eastern Cape.
Ngosi sihlalo ohloniphekileyo Eastern Cape iyayixhasa nale ngxelo.
Thank you, sir. Free State.
Thank you, Chairperson. Free State agrees.
Thank you, ma'am. Gauteng.
Gauteng supports.
Thank you, ma'am. KwaZulu-Natal.
KZN vote in favor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Mpumalanga.
Siyavuma thina Mpumalanga sihla.
Siyabonga baba. Northern Cape.
Radumalatsela modula stila.
Thank you, sir. Northwest.
Bokoni bo prima bo ene sa pula.
Ra leboga ra the Western Cape.
Weskaap ondersteun.
Dankie, mevrouw. We therefore, in terms of Section 65, have declared that the 7th order has been carried. We will proceed to the 8th order of the day, and it is that this report too be agreed to. Is there any province which wishes to make a declaration? None. We proceed to vote the Eastern Cape.
Ngosi kwakhona sihlalo ohloniphekileyo nalo yogqibela ingxelo siyayixhasa.
Thank you, sir. Free State.
Le rona re le Free State re a dumela.
Ra leboga mme Gauteng.
Gauteng supports.
Thank you, ma'am. KZN.
KZN vote in favor.
Siyabonga. Limpopo.
Re amogela modulasetulo.
Ra leboga Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga Grisja.
Ra leboga Northern Cape.
The Northern Cape supports, Chair.
Ra leboga Northwest.
Noordwest ondersteun.
Ra leboga Western Cape.
Weskaap ondersteun.
Ra leboga. Members, again, all provinces have voted in favor, and therefore the report is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable members, we now come to the subject for discussion as printed in the order paper. And I therefore want to proceed to invite the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs to open the debate. The Honorable Gigaba.
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, we gather here today to discuss the grave and heinous crime of human trafficking. It is both urgent and appropriate that we debate how best to strengthen our mechanisms to combat human trafficking in all its manifestations. In opening this debate, I would like to frame this unique challenge, highlight steps which have already been taken to confront it before outlining additional steps we must take decisively to respond to this hidden scourge. Chairperson, our understanding of human trafficking is defined both by the UN Protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, otherwise known as the Palermo Protocol, as well as the Prevention and Combating of Trafficking in Persons Act 2013. Our legislation criminalizes 3 elements of human trafficking. That is the act, the means, as well as the purpose of trafficking. Human trafficking is one of the most cruel and devastating things one person can do to another. Evidence suggests that it is a widespread and growing problem, requiring significant adaptation from authorities if it is to be eradicated. While the consensus, unfortunately, is that there is not yet a methodologically sound estimate of the number of victims globally, ILO research on forced labor over the past decade indicates that the number is in the low millions. Towards a common understanding of the nature of the problem, I will briefly share some selected insights emerging from research conducted by the UN Office of Drugs and Crime and contained in their 2014 Global Report on Trafficking in Persons. Firstly, trafficking in persons happens everywhere, and victims come from almost every country. Almost every country can be a source, transit, or destination country. Secondly, human trafficking is both domestic and international. 40% of trafficking is from one region of the world to another. A third of all trafficking happens within the country of origin, and a quarter of all trafficking happens within a given region. Research by the IOM, as well as reports from local NGOs, indicates that South Africa is at the same time a source, transit, and destination country for traffickers. Third, we need to understand the socio-economic dynamics of trafficking, which makes black and poor people, as well as women, more likely to become victims. Fourth, children, particularly girl children, are most vulnerable, constituting 60% of trafficked persons in Africa in recent years, and this proportion has been increasing. 2/3 of trafficked children are girls. Fifth, human traffickers mostly operate with impunity. Despite the majority of countries having enacted domestic human trafficking legislation since the entry into force of the Palermo Protocol in 2003, very few human traffickers are convicted. Many countries turn a blind eye to trafficking through their countries so long as they are not destination countries themselves. Sixth, cross-border trafficking is most often associated with organized crime, as syndicates see it as a high-reward, low-risk industry. As far back as 2005, the UN estimated the size of the global human trafficking industry to be worth as much as $32 billion. Finally, traffickers can be citizens of both the country of the victim's destination and origin. It is not a crime perpetrated only by foreign nationals. Chairperson, early in our democracy, our government recognized the threat of human trafficking, having been advised by law enforcement and research institutions that South Africa, among other Southern African countries, is targeted by organized traffickers as a source, transit, and destination country. We signed and ratified the Palermo Protocol in 2000. The protocol obliges member states to criminalize trafficking in persons, investigate and prosecute traffickers, as well as undertake border control measures. In addition, each signatory country must provide measures to protect and assist victims, train law enforcement and border officials, inform and educate victims, potential victims, and the general public. Despite signing the Palermo Protocol, the lack of complementary domestic legislation made it difficult to prosecute trafficking cases unless they involved sexual offenses. Recognizing this, the government duly introduced the Prevention and Combating in Trafficking of Persons Act, signed into law by President Zuma in July 2013. The legislation enables our criminal justice system to prosecute persons involved in human trafficking. Home Affairs has established a dedicated team within our inspectorate responsible for investigating cases of trafficking in cooperation with the South African Police Services and the Department of Social Development. We assist foreign victims by granting them permission to stay in South Africa for a non-renewable and reflection period of 90 days, during which we connect them with their country's embassy to assist with voluntary repatriation. We refer child victims of trafficking to designated social workers. The provision of the 2014 immigration regulations requiring parental consent for traveling minors were introduced to comply with the Children's Act of 2005 and in order to reinforce our efforts in the campaign against human trafficking. We believe that this requirement has the additional benefit of limiting opportunities for child trafficking through our ports of entry. Notable recent interventions against trafficking include the rescue in recent weeks of 22 Ghanaian boys allegedly trafficked into South Africa by a Ghanaian national. The matter is under investigation and efforts to voluntarily repatriate the boys to Ghana are underway. The May rescue in Polokwane of 19 Ethiopian males trafficked and held for a ransom. The rescue was achieved thanks to a tip-off received by the South African Police Services. 2 Ethiopian suspects were arrested in connection with their kidnapping and the matter is still in court. Third, an operation in August which uncovered traffic Thai masseurs being exploited at 3 Gauteng massage parlors and the recent return to South Africa of South African children abducted and trafficked to Malawi. The introduction of the new visa regulations has helped us prevent unlawful and unauthorized removal from the country of many minors and has greatly reduced the risk of trafficking of children from the shores of our country. These steps are necessary as South Africa receives high volumes of unaccompanied minors from neighboring states that could very well be trafficking victims. Chairperson, there are clearly a number of steps we can take to prevent, prosecute, and eventually eradicate human trafficking. First, we need better data and research, the better to understand the scale of the problem and local regional dynamics. Secondly, we must orient, train, and capacitate law enforcement agencies and personnel to respond more effectively to human trafficking. More effectively, to combat this unique challenge, security agencies must develop and be provided the specialized strategies, training, and resources necessary to confront it. Relevant agencies must develop intelligence on syndicates, work effectively with communities to prevent and identify incidents, rescue, protect, and address the needs of victims, increase arrests and successful prosecutions of perpetrators. Third, we must increase intelligence sharing and coordination of efforts amongst relevant agencies. Lessons learned from Operation Fiela should be codified and applied to expand cooperation between agencies with lead roles in security and international migration. Fourth, we must partner with NGOs and civil society groups to identify incidents of trafficking, assist victims, and raise societal awareness. And fifth, we must strengthen international partnerships with other countries in the region and beyond. We must make source and transit countries our allies in combating trafficking. We must raise the profile of this issue, coordinate prevention and enforcement efforts, and share intelligence and best practices. In this way, we may be able to forestall people's entry into the cruel world of trafficking in the first instance. Chairperson, trafficking is not merely about statistics and phenomena. It is ultimately about real people, vulnerable women and children from across the world who would otherwise be leading normal and safe lives in their homes. It is an evil, an abomination, and an egregious violation of a person's human rights. South Africa has made progress by enacting domestic legislation in line with the Palermo Protocol. We must improve the capacity of relevant agencies, improve coordination and information sharing, and forge more effective partnerships with civil society, as well as source and transit countries. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The Honourable Mpambo Shibukwane. Honourable Faber, are you on a point of order?
Honourable Chair, there's a big disturbance every time when a speaker is on the podium. People come and knock, and I know secretaries of members, etc., but they're knocking on this door, and I know that Friak has asked for so many times that light must be sorted out. Now, it becomes such a disturbance that the minister even started looking what's happening at the door. So, please, if we can sort that out, I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. That point of order is sustained. We shall not be disturbed. Administrators, make sure we are not disturbed. Honorable member, you are on the floor.
Honorable Chairperson Methandi Modise, it is remarkable that this debate occurs during this month of the 25th of November till the 16th of December, when we, preaching and embracing 16 days of activism against women, children, and people with disabilities. Honorable Chairperson, this, considering children who are highly implicated by human trafficking, and our government fails to understand the enormity of this issue. And I wish to say to the Honorable Minister, I wish the theories that you've just read out could be put well into practice. Also, Honorable Chairperson, the response to Minister's speech should be more effective in collaborative efforts that are being put by Department of Home Affairs together with SEPS and the NPA. Honorable Chairperson, as signatories to the protocol to prevent, suppress as South Africans, the big question is, are we complying enough to this treaty? Honorable Chair, human trafficking by definition is when a person is delivered, recruited, transported, sold, and harbored along South African borders. We are no exception to this, as we accept bribes that occur within our borders and ports of South Africa by our corrupt employees from Department of Home Affairs and SEPS, to name but a few. And the most recent that happened yesterday is when a lady was arrested in Home Affairs for 130,000 that has been snatched at the expense of the taxpayer. Trafficked victims are unacceptably used for servitude, sex exploitation, forced labor, the removal of body parts, and the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development and NPA has moved at a tortoise pace to bring the culprits to book. Loopholes on the South African border laws, Honorable Chairperson, are precipitating this problem. And when we do not attend to the 365 days of caring, it is a shame that our government and the governing party only prescribe the 16 days of activism on our calendar, and of which nothing is being done. Honorable Chairperson, the fact of the matter is that the Department of Home Affairs, which nowadays is affectionately known as the Department of Horror Affairs. I don't know if there's a correlation between the name of Department of Home Affairs of Honorable Minister Gigaba and is the Gigaba that are happening in there. In desperation to look tough on immigration laws, it is using child trafficking as a red herring to the enforcement problem. This is complete disregard to the need for proper regulatory impact assessment or sound research on the best practice on how to control South African borders, Honorable Minister. Human trafficking is further compounded, Honorable Minister, by the absence of an official database. There is also no crime codes in the police service which capture the complexities of each reported incident.
Honorable Tlakia, is that a point of order? Yes, ma'am.
The member is manipulating the truth and deceiving the public out there, because the Honorable Minister has actually said a lot of research has got to be done.
Thank you, ma'am. I will allow it. It's a point of debate. Please continue.
Thank you, Chairperson. The government loosely throws around a figure of 30,000 reported cases, yet they know that this figure is unsubstantial and simply
Honorable
not
Pambo,
true.
there are two honorable members. Honorable Dlamini first.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. the honorable member is deliberately misleading the public to say is the Department of Home Affairs. As far as I know, it is Department of Home Affairs.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable member. Honorable Dlamini. Honorable Dlamini. Honorable Mpambo Shibukwana, we do have a department called Home Affairs, not Horror Affairs. Will you withdraw that, please? It is withdrawn. Honorable Nyambi, were you on a point of order, a different one?
It was the very same point. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Section 46B, use of offensive and unbecoming language.
Thank you, sir. The honorable member has withdrawn. Honorable Mpambo Shibukwana. Honorable, is that a point of order on top of a point of order? Honorable van Lingen.
Chairperson, on a point of privilege. Cabinet members, deputy members, and members have freedom of speech in the assembly and its committees subject to the rules of orders. And here in our house, we also have freedom of speech. And we must be very careful that we don't overrule ourselves and eventually we sit here and we can't say anything.
Thank you. No. Subside, please, honorable member. I want to address Honorable van Lingen. Honorable van Lingen, you are right. Your right, all your other rights are subscribed and protected by Chapter 2 of the Constitution. But honorable members, those rights are not without limits. Secondly, that department is called Home Affairs. Your freedom of speech cannot be extended to the naming and misnaming of departments which are known. The Honorable Nita, Honorable Mkwena, I have noted you. Honorable Nita.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, it's another point of order to the speech of the honorable member. He says the horrors that are happening in the department are linked with the surname of the minister, Gigaba, as Easy Gigaba. So I feel the member should withdraw that. Thanks.
Honorable members, I wish to come back to this because it's order. I would want to come back, take advice on this point of order. Honorable Mkwena.
Chair, it seems that we seem to be cutting the rights of members here to express themselves. The language of English has a thing called sarcasm. In sarcasm, she referred to the horrors that happen. Can I be protected against...
Honorable Mkwena, that is no point of order
It is
at
a
all.
point
The
of order.
point
No,
you are
but
raising
Chair,
has been addressed.
But Chair, the honorable member there spoke of horrors that happen in the Department of Home Affairs. And she therefore then called it the Department of Horrors. It is not to say that she's renaming a department.
Honorable, order. 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 The members might have every right to be sarcastic, to be satirical, to be whatever it is. The point I am making, order members, is that the department is called Home Affairs, full stop. Please continue, Honorable Mpambo Shibukwan.
Associated human trafficking offenses are still subsumed into crimes such as rape, sexual assault, kidnapping, and abduction. This is hidden, subversive crime, hlalinga phambili. Children are exploited in a distorted net of culture, the aberrant form of ukuthwala, which in our culture is a customary practice used by bypass extensive and elective marriage rituals. Mawethu masohlule phakathi kwenkcubeko nesiko. Kunomsanza nomahluko koku. Inkcubeko iguquka ngokwamaxesha, kanti isiko lona aliguquki linenqayi lidala kubakho ukugula la kungenziwa. Chairperson, the DA believes that awareness of all sectors of society at its lowest level and skewed perceptions by the media as informed by the ANC government fuel this problem. Change in strategy will bring freedom to the mind of the governing party. Xa i-ANC ihluleka mhlali ngaphambili ide ingabonisi ukulawula okukuko. Lisondele ke ngoku elo xesha. Khululani imikhala mawethu sixhuzule thina bonto ntozaziyo. As a DA we believe that the future of this crime requires unconventional thinking and flexible methodologies to deal with human trafficking. Community-based participatory research method can alleviate this problem in everyday life, which reflects clearly hidden transcripts related to human trafficking. The ANC should derive more suitable and appropriate policies to framing enforcement responses. Mhlali ngaphambili, was corruption in the Department of Home Affairs is 365 days and not only 16 days within the South African borders and ports. Our responses to protect South African citizens, as per our constitution, should be likewise. Honorable Minister, human trafficking compromises human dignity, just to remind you. And as we at the DA and our policy vision and bring the values into perspective, we can bring freedom, fairness, and opportunities into effect. Take ownership. My suggestion is take ownership of this issue and step aside. Ngokungafihli makhuba kulinywa sithi, thathani inxaxheba kulawulo olululo okanye nidede mihlangala endaweni yenyangi, nithi cebu bucala, sitsho isiXhosa. Iyo loo nto ke mawethu, sisitsho sisithi, thina mawuqala wazive, kukho umahluko mhlali ngaphambili. Phakathi kwe-language competent, ndithe xa bendithetha, ndicela ubuyele kuHansard, ndithe xa bendithetha, ndathi, i-language competence yam, ithi kukho correlation phakathi kwezigigaba ne-department lena. Bendingatsho, i-language competence yam, ndicela ni ubuyele kuHansard, i-members ke zive le nto kamandi bendixhobele ndayilungiselela. Ndiyabulela mhlali ngaphambili.
Siyabulela, ma. The Honorable Dlamini.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. My greetings to the Honorable Minister, our special delegates, honorable members. I just wonder, ukuthi EDA iyazi ukuthi yenzani. They jump from this place to this place. Just yesterday, when the Department of Home Affairs introduced e-visa regulations, they were up in arms. Balwela ukuthi singavikeli ukungena nokuphuma kwabantwana. Today they are talking about protecting our children. Bakhuluma ngama methodologies. You don't need those things in theory here. We're talking about children who are being trafficked in and out. Honorable Chair, trafficking of persons is an act of recruiting, harboring, transporting, providing or obtaining a person for compelled labor or commercial sex act through use of force, fraud, or coercion. Honorable Chairperson, trafficking of men and women and children is a real issue in South Africa. It's not a theory. It is not far from you. You may be talking today, it's happening through your neighbors, and you are not aware of that. You come here and theorize it. Victims are abused. As a result, they are confused because they may not know the place where they are or do not understand the language of the country where they are, or they are forced to do things that they were not promised, or confused because people who trafficked them are either relatives or related to them. They are isolated or disorientated, which may result in a long-term impact. There are scary reasons why people are trafficked. Some are trafficked for commercial sex work, cheap or no-pay labor, begging, because they were trafficked from their countries not knowing that they're going to do that. They are trafficked for crime and sometimes for body parts. You can't get person's body parts without killing that person. It may has come, most of the time, it is done through organized global industry. It is alleged, Honorable Chair in the House, that is the second highest profit-making industry. That is what research is saying. Sexual trafficking is the movement of women and children, usually from one country to another, but sometimes within a country for purposes of prostitution or some other forms of sexual slavery. It includes recruitment, transporting, as indicated earlier, Honorable Chair. Sexual exploitation, child pornography, and child labor are the most common forms of exploitation perpetrated against trafficked children. Children are addicted to substances, contract sexual transmitted infection, physical abuse, which ultimately affect their physical, emotional, and psychological development as children. Findings of the 2008 study by the internal trafficking by the International Organization for Migration, IOM, indicates that children who are most vulnerable to recruitment for trafficking are from child-headed households due to parents' death caused by HIV and AIDS. Is adding salt in a wound. They lost their parents, now they are abused for other things. Unregistered children and children living in impoverished rural areas and informal settlement. The IOM study also highlighted that men and boys are trafficked to work on farms under false promises of pay and suitable accommodation. Boys who are not in schools or school holidays are more frequently targeted by trafficking syndicates. When they are expected to be paid, police are called to arrest them and they are not paid. According to Dr. Laura Lender, who has been studying the issue of sexual trafficking 20 years at Harvard University, reports that over the past 10 years of the study, the numbers of women and children who have been trafficked have multiplied. They are now on par with the estimate of the number of Africans who were enslaved in the 16th and 17th centuries. Honorable Chair, it is suggested that the statistics suggest that about 27 million people are believed to have been a victim of human trafficking. 1 to 2 million people are trafficked every year. Most trafficking victims are girls between 5 to 15 years of age. It is a big industry and is indicated earlier. At the time of study, it was an industry of 257 billion per annum. I have a question, Honorable Chair, to the Democratic Alliance and the EFF, Guti. Where do you stand here? Why do you not want that the government, led by ANC, not to protect children and women and boys from coming in and out of the country? Is it not because we are benefiting from the industry or for the farm laborers? EFF, you must come up clean here. Who do you stand for? Do you stand for the poor or do you stand for the rich? Because in this case, you said you are also accusing government for reducing
Honorable
tourism.
Dlamini, there is a point of order, Honorable Mkwena.
Sorry, Chair. If the Honorable Speaker there needs clarification on the standpoint of the EFF, we're willing to do that. But she cannot stand there and say that the EFF stands for the non-protection of children. It's not correct. she must withdraw that statement. There's nowhere where the EFF has said that we have a problem with children being protected. Thank you very much.
sir. That's no point of order. It's a.
But she said she's asking a question, so we need to clarify her.
Honorable Mukwena.
She's leading the House.
No, Honorable Mukwena, it is a debate. I'm allowing it. Honorable Dlamini, Honorable Julius. Are you on a point of order?
Yes, Chairperson. I refer
Yes, sir.
to your previous ruling or reference that people must make sure of their facts before they come to this House and debate. Can you please rule on that one, Mr.
Thank you, sir. You are saying that in reference to the question asked by the Honorable Dlamini, the difference here is that Honorable Dlamini couches it as in a question which gives the other parties the right to say yes or no. In the other one, no, let me finish. Because this is a debate. The previous speaker made a statement, did not ask, was not seeking for clarity, did not ask. It is up to you, honorable members, as you stand up here to challenge and to scatter this debate from the Honorable Dlamini. Honorable Julius.
Sorry for the debate, but the statement was that other parties are benefiting from it. That was the statement made. And it wasn't a question.
Thank you, sir. She put it as a question. I did hear that, yes.
I'm very sorry for the debate, but the question was that what are other parties doing? And then she said, let me tell you. It was a statement after the question.
Okay.
It was basically a rhetoric question, but she answered it as fact.
Okay. Okay, order members. I do promise to go back to Hansard to ascertain that. If the honorable member has made that as a statement and not as a question, as I understood it, then I will come back to this House and rule on this matter. Give me that opportunity. Honorable Engelbrecht, you are on a point of order?
Madam Speaker, yes, thank you. The ANC has just, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. The ANC has just, about 10 minutes ago, proven that they do not care for children when they turned down my motion to have the water tested in Hammanskraal. Now they say they look after children for trafficking, but they don't look after the children when it comes to basic health care. Because the ANC is lying, and the honourable member needs to realise that they are lying.
Honourable Engelbrecht, that is not a point of order. Honourable Mampuru, on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm a point of order. Honorable Branwen cannot come here and tell us about motions because
she is Honorable Engelbrecht.
The time for motions have passed. It's over. She can't. She's out of order.
I did rule on that matter. The Honorable Mpambo Shibukwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to the whip of the social services, it's Honorable Engelbrecht, not Honorable Bronwyn.
I had already. Honorable ladies, please take your seats, both of you now.
And on my question, I would like to know if the Honorable Speaker, who's my chairperson, would like to take a nice question.
Honorable Dlamini, do you wish to take a question from the member?
I want to know from the speaker on the podium, Honorable Dlamini, if the ANC is benefiting from this human trafficking. Because you said we did. And
you have put your question, Honorable Dlamini. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Communication is dynamic. Most of the things that you are saying, I did not say. I am saying you must come out clear. Where do you stand? You made a lot of noise when the department introduced regulations that will protect children coming in and out to prevent trafficking. Where do you stand? Do you prefer money over people? Western Cape, Honorable Pambos Bogwane, you're talking about the DA and 16 days of activism. What are you doing in the Western Cape? What are you doing? Don't talk about something that you are not involved and participating on it. Honorable Chair, it is estimated that about 30 children are being prostituted in South Africa. Half of these children are younger than 14 years old. Children as young as 4 are prostituted. How painful it is. There are up to 10,000 children prostituted in Johannesburg alone. That is at the time of the study. Up to 1,000 girls are trafficked to South Africa from Mozambique, our neighboring country. Honorable Chair, as a caution, is that most of the time when they attract them, they talk about attractive jobs is offered to you that is far away from home in another province or country. It may be modeling contract, a waitering job, or contract with a soccer club. These offers may appear in newspapers or may hear by victims from their relatives. No qualifications are required, and free housing and transport is offered with the job, plus free processing of your visa and working permits. Maybe that is how you want to do it, behind the doors, illegally. So that is why you don't want the legal one. The people you are dealing with organize for you to cross border illegally. A friend or relative offers to send you to an expensive good school that is far from home and offer you to pay your school fees. We are saying people must be careful about this because they are far from being true. We're also urging media to assist in making awareness of these issues. Adverts that are not realistic, they must indicate, not promote that people take them. There are many departments and institutions that has been formed by our government to protect child and women trafficking. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable Kaula.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, human trafficking is one of the gruesome evils that puts a threat to the globalization activities of countries throughout the world. South Africa is also part of the victims who suffer these consequences. When briefing the Social Services and Education Select Committees last month, the Department of Home Affairs reported that whilst South Africa may be experiencing challenges of illegal immigrants through our official entry points, the biggest threat is with what they call the unofficial entry points. They, Home Affairs, estimate that South Africa has more than 200 unofficial entry points. This is our challenge number one in the country if we have to effectively deal with this challenge of human trafficking. According to a variety of reports, human trafficking in South Africa comes in various forms and for different reasons. The International Labour Organization reports suggest that there are 4.5 million sex slaves who are victims of human trafficking and are trapped elsewhere in the world, South Africa included. Another 14.2 million people, also victims of human trafficking, are used in forced labor. Of this figure, 5.5 million are children who are kept as slaves for labor. This is surely unacceptable. Some victims of human trafficking are abducted for their body parts, a practice that is taking place also in South Africa. One report suggests that, I quote, the number of children trafficked in South Africa every year is enough to fill up all the seats in Kings Park Stadium, unquote. Human trafficking is indeed a problem that requires the multidisciplinary attention and focus of various government departments and the citizens of our country. It is a pity that one of the departments which should be another lead department in this intervention is in such a state of chaos. This is the Police Services Department. Its National Commissioner has just been suspended. She follows on the footsteps of another police commissioner who was fired. He was following on the footsteps of another police commissioner who was arrested. Hence, these alarming figures of human trafficking also in South Africa. Honorable Minister, it is also unfortunate that the issue of attending to and tightening our immigration regulations had to drag on so much before your time. It is unfortunate that the then president of South Africa in 2004 had to challenge the then Minister of Home Affairs in court when that minister was attending to this issue of our immigration regulations at that time. The unacceptable practice of ukutwala, which is also in practice in some of our provinces, is part and parcel of human trafficking. Those who hide behind this as a custom must also be dealt with in the manner deserving by our law enforcement activities. There is a difference between umkhuba and isiko. Ukutwala is not isiko but umkhuba. Futhi ke umkhuba ongadingekile. Some of the young lives abducted are used as children soldiers in the wars that are devastating our continent and the world. South Africa cannot just view these activities as far and distant from our borders. These activities are actually catching up with every community in the world. It is therefore important that as a country, we seriously take consideration of what is happening in our country, with our neighbors, and elsewhere in the world in respect of human trafficking. The spread of destructive drugs was something that was viewed to be far away from us in the country, especially in our rural areas just a few years ago. Today, drug sale has engulfed both our urban and rural communities. The drug mules used are mostly the victims of human trafficking. Iningizimu Afrika make ingabi nje umachanca kwampuze edlemini kuzo zonke lezi zinto ezimbi kangaka ezibulala ikusasa lesizwe. Make kuqine umthetho futhi uhlonishwe. Ukuhlonishwa komthetho kufanele kuqale phezulu ekhanda kwehle njalo kuze emzimbeni. Ngesilungu kuthiwa the fish starts rotting from the head. If the powers that be have the necessary respect for the law, the citizens will follow suit in complying with the necessary respect for the law. The opposite is also true. In this respect, South Africa requires a deep exercise of self-introspection. In conclusion, the IFP hereby commits our support to government on measures to curb human trafficking in our country and the world. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Stock.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable members of this August House, special delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Let me also extend a word of gratitude and excitement to participate in today's debate of human trafficking. I think as a point of departure and as a matter of principle, Honorable Chair, I need to correct some of the few sound bites that were made from this podium. The statements that were made and attributed to some of the officials of the Department of Home Affairs, SARS, that because an impression that has been created is that all of them are corrupt. And it's wrong for some members in this House to come and make such statements. Because number one, they are misleading and they are far from the truth. What we are saying is that we are not disputing the fact that there might be those that are corrupt, but it's not everybody that is in the system that is corrupt. South Africa is one of Africa's leading countries, which is said to be a country of origin, transit and destination in relation to internal and external trafficking due to its wealth and economic position, has introduced several measures to combat human trafficking. This is in response to its international treaty of obligations and the increasing number of people in the modern slavery. Honorable Chairperson, these measures that were brought into place by the ANC-led government in relation to the different legislations that deals with human trafficking. There are also a number of comprehensive measures that seeks to address the scourge of human trafficking by creating offenses such as debt bondage, in which individuals are forced to pledge their labor to pay off a debt, destruction or tampering with travel documents, and using the services of human trafficking victims. In South Africa, penalties for crime of human trafficking are very harsh. For an example, a maximum penalty can actually lead up to 100 million, or a fine or life imprisonment for a conviction in the trafficking of persons. The bill also cares for the compensation payable to those that are found guilty of the crime and also to the different victims. Notwithstanding the international, regional, and national measures to combat human trafficking, the levels of human trafficking are said to remain very high in many African countries. In South Africa, despite its strong human rights-based constitution and constitutional bodies such as the South African Human Rights Commission and the Commission on Gender Inequality, which can play an important preventive and protective role, was estimated to have had 106,000 enslaved people according to the 2014 Global Slavery Index. It is well documented that South Africa is a source, transit, and also a destination country for human trafficking. For an example, an article that was actually crafted by a lecturer at the Department of Police Practice at the University of South Africa, UNISA, makes reference to a book which is titled, which was written by Philip Frankel, which is titled The Long Walk to Nowhere, Forced Migration, Exploitation and Human Trafficking in South Africa. Marcel van der Waard argues that in that book that the author dismisses skeptic and exposes some of the unexplored and undocumented crevices in the mining and labor sector, which are actually suggestive of the human trafficking. Therefore, the arguments on how many people are trafficked in and out of South Africa is very complex and should not be and never be underestimated. Honorable Chairperson, the ANC-led government is also embarking on several intergovernmental initiatives in raising awareness on human trafficking. There is also a multi-sectoral national task team set up by the government, which embarked on an aggressive educational awareness campaign building up to the Child Protection Week from the 27th of May to June the 2nd. This team has spearheaded the development of the National Action Plan to fight human trafficking in South Africa. It comprises of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, Home Affairs, Social Development, and the National Prosecuting Authority and the South African Police Services. This team also works with the provincial governments to revive the provincial and district human trafficking responses. Investments have been made to train practitioners in the identification and screening of the victims. While South Africa has actually put in place legislative measures to prevent human trafficking, the country is still a source, transit point, and destination country for men and women subjected to trafficking for forced labor and sexual exploitation. In response to the organized crime unit of the South African Police Services, they have actually set up a human trafficking desk for a targeted response to the crime. Furthermore, the Child Protection and International Social Services Directorates in the Department of Social Development are actually implementing a strategy for the prevention of child trafficking and supporting foreign child victims in the process of repatriation. The Child Protection Directorate also ensures the safe return of South African child victims and unaccompanied South African minors to their families and legal guardians in South Africa. The ANC-led government, again, Honorable Chair, is committed to implementing the effective border control and asylum management in South Africa in order to deal with the issues of human trafficking, especially the child trafficking, which had become a problem for South Africa. South Africa did not have stringent asylum policies, but stricter legislation came into effect from June 2015. Our government had also to develop a national identity system, which would include both South African and foreign nationals. In this regard, the fingerprint will be taken from foreign nationals at the points of entry into South Africa to make sure that all people within our boundaries of South Africa were traceable. The Department of Home Affairs is in the process of developing also a white paper on immigration. The very first border management agency would be established by the end of December 2016 and will actually be ready by January 2017. Now, all the challenges that are actually being experienced at the different border posts, like for an example, an official who sits at the Maseru border post, Lebombo, or the Beitbridge border post. One of the challenges when we had the interaction with the select committee is that there's no uniform approach when it comes to the different border posts throughout South Africa and the different countries that we share the borders with. For an example, the issue of infrastructure is not the same, and then also the issue of the different officials which are actually helping people at the border post. They don't wear the same uniform, so you don't know actually what is happening. And one of the issues they raised also is the issue of operating hours. Some border posts, they close at 10 o'clock in the evening, and then all these people that are actually trafficking, they sit and wait at the border post until 9:45. And then by then they flock into the border post. They know at that time all the officials, most of them are actually rushing to go back home. So it is also a challenge that has been raised in the select committee. So in terms of the implementation of the border management agency, it's going to take a different, a uniform approach for all the border posts throughout South Africa, because all our officials in the different border posts, they will have one uniform, there will be common approach, irrespective of whether an official is from SARS or is from the South African Police Service and all of that. So we want to applaud actually the ANC-led government, the Department of Home Affairs, under the leadership of Minister Malusi Gigaba, for actually bringing such good initiatives. The need for an integrated and coordinated border management and that facilitates secure travel and legitimate trade in accordance with the Constitution, international and domestic law, in order to contribute to the prevention of the smuggling and trafficking of human beings and goods and prevent illegal cross-border movement. So those are actually some of the good stories that we'll be able to experience from the Border Management Agency once it has been implemented. So I don't know if members come to the podium and come and create some stories. It's unfortunate, one of them have left, so I'm not going to waste my time, Chair, to elaborate further on that. Siyaqhuba, singukhongolosi. Thank you very much, Chair.
The Honorable Mtileni.
Cancer.
These hands are very few.
Order.
At global level, human trafficking is worth over $32 billion annually, making it the third most lucrative criminal activity after the narcotics and weapons trades. Although in contrast to these other criminal activities, however, the penalties for human trafficking in most countries are much less severe or non-existent. In our country, it is well documented that South Africa is a source, transit and destination country for human trafficking, with some estimated that close to 30,000 women and children are trafficked into and through the country every year. We are failing to deal with this humanitarian tragedy because at times there is complicity by political elites and bureaucratic officials, the paucity of border controls, corruption, and culture of impunity. This toxic concoction makes human trafficking an attractive business with high returns and low risk. For example, trafficking in persons for sexual exploitation is the most documented type of trafficking, locally and internationally. Yet, none of the international syndicates dominating the sex trade have ever been successfully prosecuted in South Africa. But why do we have such a problem in this country? And what can we do to sort it out? At the root of this problem lies the despicable levels of poverty and socioeconomic inequalities. What drives a 22-year-old woman in Durban to go online and sell her 5-year-old daughter, other than lack of hope of ever making it in life? We condemn acts like these because it is the easiest way out. We do not want to take the mirror and look at ourselves and see how we have contributed to the scourge of human trafficking. Poverty dehumanizes people. It reduces them to lesser human beings and erodes the ability of distinguishing between right and wrong. Poverty makes people vulnerable to abuse. As a result of people end up being victims of unscrupulous criminals. We know for a fact that most of the women who are trafficked into and through the country from countries like Mozambique come out under the pretext that they are going to be given jobs. Potential victims attempt to move from areas with extreme poverty to areas with less extreme poverty. In these instances, it is the desire of potential victims to migrate to escape poverty that is exploited by traffickers. Control and threatening measures tend to increase once migration occurs for the victims. So the solutions to the problem of human trafficking lie in the economic restructuring of our economies, more so in Southern Africa. We must also work hard in restructuring the gendered nature of our economic system and provide more opportunities for women and girl children to thrive without having to depend on men. We must strengthen our police and the justice system in general to deal decisively with criminals who make their living through exploiting vulnerable women and children. This is a topic we should not be playing politics about. It requires our collective action. We can no longer sit and do nothing, while in every corner of our street there may be a trafficked child who has been uprooted from the family, largely due to socio-economic conditions of our people. The EFF calls for radical socio-economic transformation that will address the dire poverty levels our people are subjected to and makes them vulnerable to human trafficking. We must address the
Honorable
root of the
Mtileni, there is a
problem
point of order.
and not the branches.
Honorable Mhlanga?
I want to ask the honorable member a question. I don't know what it was.
Honorable Mtileni, would you take a question?
Asikos card.
Akana skhathi baba. Qhubeka baba.
Well, of course, I was on my last sentence. We must address the root of the problem and not the branches. Inkomo.
Nkomo. Thank you very much. The order, the Honorable Joseph.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members, Special Delegates, it's good to be back in the House. I want to start by saying that the Western Cape, we accepted this invitation to speak here today because we want to share in this responsibility that government has. And that is why we are here. Human trafficking must be seen as a fundamental transgression against human rights. And I think we've all agreed that women and children is at high on the list. But I think it is important that all role players, we increase our efforts to address this problem of human trafficking. Government, law enforcement agencies, non-governmental organizations, and our community at large must become part of this ongoing debate and discussion to combat human trafficking. Young children, in particular young women, are made to believe that their conditions will improve if they take the opportunity to be smuggled to another town or country or province, but they are not aware of the exploitation of people who has human trafficking as a different purpose and means to abuse, to recruit, and in particular for financial gain. And Honorable Chairperson, we know that it is indeed a global problem. Interesting to note that countries with ongoing conflict and poor social conditions and poor border controls are easier targets, while the perpetrators comes from all social classes. Our international protocol agreements and instruments to use to combat human trafficking must also make sure that the legal instruments are in place and that assistance is given to victims who need rehabilitation after they've gone through these terrible experiences. In South Africa, as everybody before me and speakers have highlighted, the sexual exploitation, the forced labor, linked with drugs, organized crime, selling of children, and also organ trafficking. So it is important that this debate helps us to increase our awareness. Honorable Chairperson and members, the Western Cape is not excluded from this problem. Our ports, our freeways, our business areas, our homes in our communities are also used. And we as government cannot ignore the technological world that we live in that has a great influence on this problem. So we acknowledge the experience and the robust debate that the media gives to us and the reporting in our democratic country. It highlights to generate more awareness, and we encourage the media to explore deeper into human trafficking and to encourage our society what to do. Honorable Chairperson, our minister in the Western Cape have launched a directory of services for victims of crime and violence. This directory focuses on the challenges faced by women and children, and the Department of Social Development, in partnership with the national departments and state institutions, is assisting victims with access to information for services. This directory contains important information relating to human trafficking, service organizations, for example, the counseling offices and opportunities for people to go to police stations. Various emergency and toll-free numbers are in place to assist our victims. However, we need more social workers, more police, better technology to combat human trafficking. And our budget constraints and priorities of spending must be debated to ensure that affected departments and government agencies receive the necessary support to do this important work. South Africa is high on the list as a target destination, and research indicates that commercial sexual exploitation, forced child labor practices, and organ trafficking needs constant monitoring. And according to the comments, information released by Graham Hoskin in November 2013, individuals and organized crime groups contribute significantly towards this stats in South Africa. Members, we all need more insight into this multifaceted crime. And when a child who needs protection from its parents or guardians are put up for sale, it must be a sign that family structures in our community is failing us. Protection, identification, investigations, and the justice procedure, and the punishment of perpetrators, all these activities must be intensified. This operation to combat human trafficking requires a 24/7 attention. It further requires special task teams, special intelligence, as the Minister had mentioned also, because the enemy, we can't always see the enemy. It's there, it's amongst us, it's moving, it's a moving target, and therefore cooperation between all provinces is important. And I want to just bring it to the attention that our parliamentary processes, as members in the provinces and the chairperson of the committees, when we have the opportunity to raise these questions to the National Parliament members and also to our provincial ministers. Members of this August House and members of the legislatures, we have received a mandate to govern in this term, and we must govern to take South Africa forward. We must govern and accept the responsibility to protect our human beings and protect our human rights that is enshrined in our Constitution. Members, we know that this is a history of slavery, and we know that South Africa also had a history of slavery, and therefore the elements and experience of slavery is built into this human trafficking, and we have the mandate and the responsibility to eradicate this violation against human rights. Freedom asks for fairness, and fairness asks for equal opportunity as human beings. And I want to acknowledge that the visits across provinces from various departments that have taken place so far have shown results that if you can work together as provinces in the country, we can enhance good governance, and we can take this challenge as a country if all provinces work together and make sure that we protect our citizens of this country. I thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honourable Mthethwa.
Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Minister, Honourable Members, Special Delegates. Chairperson, let me begin by saying, as African National Congress, we believe that the fight against human trafficking is not the fight that can be fought by the government alone. We need all responsible citizens, business sector, religious organizations, NGOs and CBOs, and those political parties that are prepared to build this country, because its historical background dates back in ancient years of slavery. Human trafficking is the modern day slavery by its own definition, as the illegal trade of human beings, of exploitation or commercial gain. The exploitation presents itself in the form of sexual exploitation of forced labor. There are many views about the origin of human trafficking, with some arguing that it started when Africans were taken for origin of human trafficking, with some were taken slave trade. On that very same note, one would recall one of our own, Saki Batman, whom in her 20s was sold to London by an enterprising Scottish doctor named Alexander Dunlop, accompanied by a showman named Hendrik Caesars. She spent 4 years in Britain being exhibited for her abnormal shape. She then moved to Paris, where she endured further exploitation and humiliation until she died. It is this government, led by the ANC, which worked tirelessly to bring Saki Batman's remains home to be buried with dignity. Honorable Chairperson, the phenomenon of human trafficking has been a great concern in the entire world. In the international community, UN has its first international binding document that outlawed human trafficking. The United Nations Convention for Suppression of the Traffic in Person and of the Exploitation of the Prostitution of Others. In 1949, which was signed by the only 66 countries, Southern African region also joined the fight against human trafficking through interstate collaborations in the fight against human trafficking with SADC and the continent and the country around the world. This endeavor identify various factors which lead to human trafficking within the SADC region. These are commonly poverty, war, lack of economic opportunities, natural disasters, and political instability. Various initiatives have been introduced by SADC member states, including drafting legislation to curb human trafficking. 13 of the 15 country members states have a specific legislation that address the issue of human trafficking, and they are implementing programs to raise public awareness of such practice. It is through this legislation that the member state put measures that can address human trafficking, both at a country level and at regional level. All 15 SADC countries are part of the UN Convention and the PALO Protocol entered into in September and December 2003, respectively. And this shows our commitment to join the global drive to combat human trafficking. All member states are obliged to criminalize human trafficking in persons, investigate and prosecute traffickers, undertake border control measures, as well as protect and assist victims. As stated in the Palermo Protocol, all the above mentioned are included in the new human trafficking legislation framework. The United Nations Office of Drug and Crime has also established a partnership with SADC and provides technical assistance to regional states. The SADC has a regional 10-year plan, 2009 to 2019, of action on trafficking in person based on the principle on human rights, centered on the child, gender, and non-criminalization of victims. The SADC plan of action focuses on capacity building for the region, including identifying trafficking as a crime and providing victim support and witness protection. One of the factors that requires South Africa to have an anti-traffic legal response was the necessity for inter-country cooperation in combating human trafficking, as the crime does not only thrive within the SADC countries, but also across international borders worldwide. To eradicate this transactional problem, the cooperation of all countries on all continents worldwide is required. This is one of the reasons why South Africa has joined forces and cooperated with the rest of the world in combating human trafficking. Chairperson, honorable members, persons from the most disadvantaged society economic structure are most vulnerable to exploitation, including human trafficking. The human trafficking phenomenon is perpetuated by socioeconomic challenges facing population which make them vulnerable to recruitment as well as the exploitation of use of individuals, whether in forced labor or commercial sex work. Honorable John Jeffries, Department of Justice, said this. Child-headed households due to HIV and AIDS, poverty, unemployment are some of the factors that young girls and women are faced with in rural areas. And through some of these circumstances, they ultimately become victims to human trafficking. Some children enter a workforce with little or no qualification at all for a decent paying job due to their family background. And this makes them extremely vulnerable to sex traffickers that lure, bribe, and falsely promise them good jobs. They fall into a trap of criminals who slave them into forced prosecution through human trafficking. A very disturbing trend is on the rise in rural areas where people living with albinism are most vulnerable of human trafficking. Parents to children living with albinism live in fear of losing their children to a culture of cruelty and ignorance where albinism is rendered less human. Children living with albinism are adopted and trafficked for their body organs to be sold. The community of people living with albinism is identified as vulnerable to human trafficking for the harvesting of body parts due to the beliefs of white skin having potent powers. Some communities hold false belief that sex with a person living with albinism will cure them for HIV and AIDS. Hence, they are adopted, trafficked, and raped. The non-governmental organization, government department, research companies, and some institutions of higher learning, such as the University of Johannesburg, have a series of activities and awareness campaigns to educate the public of human trafficking. The big question is, are we doing enough to reach the vulnerable families in the remote rural parts of the country who don't have access to television, billboards, magazines, even newspapers to get the message? We should start using platforms such as school to sensitize children and make them aware of how these crime syndicates operate. Department of Social Development, who reaches in all the corners of our country, even in the deepest area for their grant programs, they should promote awareness to the vulnerable women who are a higher risk of deceiving traps that are set out by these criminals. And the more they will be empowered to protect themselves and their children.
Honorable Mteto, your time has expired, sir. Thank you. The Honorable Faber. Honorable Faber.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, Minister and members, South Africa is a source, transit and destination country for trafficked men, women and children. South African girls are trafficked within their country for the purpose of commercial sex exploitation and domestic servitude. Human trafficking of young women from Africa and other countries like Thailand, China, and Europe to South Africa for commercial sex use exploitation takes place. Organized criminal groups, including Nigerian, Chinese, and Eastern European syndicates, as well as individual policemen, facilitate trafficking into and within South Africa. This particularly for the purpose of commercial sexual exploitation. The South African government also does not fully comply with the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking and are not making significant efforts to do so. South Africa is now placed on Tier 2 list for a fourth consecutive year for its failure to show increased efforts to addressing trafficking over the last year. The government provided inadequate data on trafficking crimes investigated or prosecuted or resulting convictions or sentences. The lack of information was part of the reason that caused the Department of Home Affairs to implement some ridiculous immigration laws. In 2013, the Times wrongly reported figures about child trafficking in South Africa, estimated at 30 to 45,000. So did the Pretoria News. Obviously, our minister read that, with similar figures of 50% of these kids under the age of 14 years old. Rawson later said she'd been misquoted in the Pretoria News article. The key fact, that was only 248 cases of human trafficking that was reported, the National Prosecuting Authority for that year, and with 132 cases that were the purpose of sexual exploitation. The International Organization for Migration conducted a South African counter-trafficking program review and found that only 306 victims have been reported between 2004 and 10. This is an average of 51 persons per year. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime Global Report on Trafficking in Persons states that between 2010 and March 2011, South Africa's National Prosecuting Authority reported that 235 adults and 13 children were victims of human trafficking. Now, neither these reports suggest a figure even close to the claims, Minister, of 30,000 or 45,000 children that are currently being trafficked for sexual exploitation in South Africa per year, as you stated. There is a need for reliable data to enable the implementation of government policies and proper allocation of resources to combat genuine cases of human trafficking. We all agree, Minister, that only one child that is being involved in child trafficking is one too much. We all agree on that. But let us get our statistics right. Minister Gigaba went on implementing this new visa regulations with unabridged birth certificates and stated that he actually stated that approximately 30,000 children were being trafficked.
I've got a point of order. A point of order, Honorable Mhlanga.
Yeah, Chair, I have a point of order. The honourable member here is called the honourable minister is Mr. Kigaba. Can you please
Thank you, sir.
and call him Mr. Honourable
Honorable
Kigaba?
Faber. Honorable Gigaba.
Honorable, I correct myself, Honorable Gigaba.
Thank you, sir.
Minister Gigaba, Honorable Gigaba went on implementing this new visa regulations with unabridged
Order,
birth
members.
certificates. Only 22 child trafficking cases that have been uncovered in the past 3 years. This was the minister's attempt to justify his new visa regulations, including the unabridged birth certificates for minors entering South Africa. Minister, you should retract the statements here today. Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister misled South Africa and eventually cost South Africa about 5,800 jobs in the tourist industry, not even to talk about the negative of 2.6 billion of our tourist economy. And this stats, Minister, is by our own Tourism Business Council of South Africa. The DA urges the Minister and his department to go and do some homework. Get the real facts and then come and please present it to Parliament. The real facts, not that was read in a newspaper. This lack of insight already costs South Africa too much. Secondly, we cannot fight human trafficking when our own government don't even know the real figures, how and where it takes place. It is time that the DA becomes the government of the day. And with real facts, we can protect our children from trafficking crime once we know how and where it occurs. We thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Kayla.
Honorable Chairperson, thank you for giving me the opportunity to take part in this debate. Chairperson, can you protect me against that member?
You are protected, honorable member.
It is well documented that South Africa is a source of and transit and destination country for human trafficking. Trafficking in persons for sexual exploitation is the most documented crime locally and internationally. Yet none of the international syndicates dominating this sex trade have ever been successfully prosecuted. We appreciate and welcome the arrest and prosecution of a Danish weapon dealer who is alleged to have sliced off women's sexual organs. This gruesome and barbaric act is part of broader human trafficking criminal activity. Whilst it is correct to be preoccupied with numbers of the scope of the problem, we must equally pay attention and promote deeper understanding of the complex issues associated with the human trafficking. Measures to combat this scourge of this so-called trade cannot be divorced from numerous other structural issues confronting the broader South African societies. This includes racism, poverty, unemployment, illiteracy, and inequality, all of which interpenetrate at some point. The challenge is further compounded by the absence of an accurate and reliable official database on human trafficking. Many numbers have been bandied around and some are disputed, whilst others are not verifiable. Associated human trafficking offenses are still subsumed into crimes such as rape, sexual assault, kidnapping, abduction, and domestic violence. We need more trained law enforcement agencies with the ability to positively identify trafficking cases. Awareness about human trafficking across all sectors of society remain a point of departure in our effort to combat this draconian act. The possible link between missing persons and human trafficking also needs to be interrogated. In February 2014, the South African Police Services Missing Person Bureau reported that 2,641 adult and 754 children remain missing from cases reported between 2011 and 2013. However, this is not linked to human trafficking and leaves us without a full picture of what is happening. Indeed, whilst quantity is important, the question we should be asking is which communities are most vulnerable to this crime? This will open the door to find connection between measurable quantities and, on the other hand, qualities which should be considered. The hidden nature of this crime requires unconventional thinking and flexible methodologies to scope the problem. Every member of the society should be empowered to be a co-participant in combating this crime. Poor women, and in particular girls locked in a remote, extremely poor rural hinterland, must be targeted for rigorous formal and informal education, and a clear poverty eradication program be implemented. Okugqibela, ibalekile le debate, Honorable Chairperson, ingaski into ezinjena sike sizithathe as a country, kuyeke le nto ubana ibe yi-political scoring. Ibaleke kakhulu enithi i-affect abantwana bethu. Omama abaninzi bamkele ngabantwana. Ababazi noba baphi kubhetele umntana akho umazi bana uswelekile kungonomazi bana undawunina. Ibaleka kakhulu ethi ingaske sibe serious na dealshana into ezinje. Inkosi.
Inkosi Tata. The Honorable Zwane. Honorable
Thank you,
Mampuru,
Chairperson.
Honorable Mampuru, you are on your feet.
Honorable Thandi Mpambo Subukwan to talk about Nyasis in this house.
Honorable
Nyatsi.
Mpambo Shibukwan.
Mama, ndicela uxolo ndifunda isiSuthu apha ndive igama lingalazi. Ndicela uxolo. asontetho endinoyithetha ndingumama wabantwana babini uAnderson noAnderson cela uxolo ngaloo ndaba.
Thank you,
Sifundela isuthu mama uzwana usozube yazi uba xa sihleka sihamba silisebenzisa njani elaa khaya.
On that point, the matter has been withdrawn. Honorable Zwane, you're on the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson of Council, honorable members. According to global trends recorded in the UN Office on Drug and Crime, it is evident that while human trafficking is globally acknowledged to be a growing problem, and there have been various attempts to provide estimates of the scale of global trafficking, the real extent of the problem remains unknown. One of the challenges inherent to human trafficking is how vastly underreported it is, because estimates are based on official cases reported, and many human trafficking victims fall under the radar of data collection. Reliable statistics are essential to understand the nature and the extent of the problem, its causes and consequences, and to inform policymakers and other stakeholders. Regular data collection also enables the assessment of progress and impact of the implementation of policy, action plans, and specific programs and projects. Collecting credible data, however, remains a significant challenge. In July 2010, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a global plan of action to combat trafficking in persons. And this report reflected the following. Although more than 90% of countries have legislation criminalizing human trafficking since the Palermo Protocol has come into effect, the legislation does not always comply with the protocol or does not cover all forms of trafficking, leaving victims vulnerable even where legislation is enacted or it falls short of implementation. Another critical issue is that what is worrying is that there is an increase in the number of detected child victims, particularly girls under 18, and also lack of awareness of men as trafficked persons, especially for forced labor, has also resulted in identification failures as well as discrimination against male victims in terms of assistance and access to services. One of the very important conventions, other than the Palermo Convention, is the Convention on the Rights of Children, or the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Parties to this convention have an obligation to undertake all appropriate legislative, administrative, and other measures for the implementation of the rights of children that are recognized by this convention. And it covers protocols on the sale of children, child prostitution, and child pornography. And it is with pride to observe that South Africa is among the countries that are ahead of the pack, because we've got a plethora of legislation on the rights of children that we've already enacted as a country. Another important legislation that maybe we could look at is the CEDAW Convention that speaks to the elimination on all forms of discrimination against women, which requires state parties to take all appropriate measures, including legislation to suppress all forms of women abuse, including trafficking in women. Again, South Africa, because it is a country with a vision, is ahead because we've got a plethora of legislation that is actually protecting the rights of women already in the country. Another very important convention that is continental and also applicable in the SADC regional framework is the African Youth Charter of 2006. Article 21.1 calls upon state parties to enact and enforce legislation that protect girls and young women from all forms of violence, genital mutilation, incest, rape, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, trafficking, prostitution, and pornography. Equally important also is the SADC Protocol on Gender and Development of 2008, which also makes specific reference to trafficking in persons, identifying obligations and responsibilities in addressing trafficking in persons by all state parties. It is with pride also to observe that South Africa, as a government led by the African National Congress, has already legislated on human trafficking. We have just passed an act over the past years that is called the Prevention and Combating of Trafficking in Persons Act of 2013. The government of South Africa did this in line with its international obligations in terms of the Palermo Convention. This piece of legislation aims to provide the country with a single statute to tackle human trafficking holistically and comprehensively. Prior to the enactment of this piece of legislation, the legislative framework was fragmented and not actually addressing the problem comprehensively. Let me take this time to actually address some of the issues that were raised by Honorable Mpambo Spugwana. I just want to say that my honorable member, I can appreciate your dreams where you think or feel that at some stage in your life you will take over the control of this government of South Africa. It is a dream and you are free to dream, but it's not going to happen. For one reason, people out there are actually looking at how you deploy your cadres, if you have cadres. In this house, we are observing, and South Africa out there is observing. Then when a black member is left, they are replaced by a white member. And in other words, it means the vote of the black person, the black voter that has actually brought you into this house is being exploited.
Honorable Mpambo,
So I'm not going to dream
you are
of
on your
taking
feet.
over
Honorable
this
Zwane,
country.
Honorable Mpambo.
Chairperson. The speaker, Honorable Zwane, as a speaker on the podium, is making a racist comment, and I would like her to withdraw. I think.
Order, members. Honorable Mpambo Shibukwan, I am doing just that, honorable members. The speaker on the podium says that she is observing what is happening in the party. She then says that when a black woman resigns, she is replaced by a white man, a white person. Strictly speaking, there is no racism in that sentence. So can we continue, please? No, order.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you,
Order.
Chairperson. The other issue that you raised is that you call the Department of Home Affairs a horror department. This department, where it comes from today, it has made great strides. It's one of the most efficient departments that you have. We do not deny the fact that there are challenges, but we have a department here in South Africa where you apply for an ID, you get it in a week or in less than 2 weeks. That is what you call efficient. Angithathe leli thuba ke sengizohlala phansi sihlalo ohloniphekile ukudlulisa nje ukuthi udaba lokuthunjwa kwabantu besifazane nezingane akulona udaba lakahulumeni nje kuphela. Njengabazali sinomthwalo okuyifundisa izingane zethu emakhaya ngalezi zinto ukuthi ingane ayibi sendaweni engekho safe yodwa ingane entombazane. Umuntu wesifazane akabi sendaweni la engadlwenguleka khona noma la engathumbeka khona. Kufanele lezi zinto siqikekele ukuthi asizenzi. Ingane zethu mazakha ubungane ezinye izingane kufanele sibheke i-background kusithi sibheke ukuthi lo mngane wami uphila kanjani noma uphuma emndenini onjani. Izingane zethu siyifundisa ukuthi awungeni emotweni stranger ongasazi. Lokhu kuhayika emgaqweni kwengane zamantombazane ezincane ikona okuzenza ukuthi zibe sesimeni zokuthi zithumbeke ziye kwamanye amazwe kusetshenziswe imizimba yazo ukuthola imali. Nanokuthi ke lokhu kuthunjwa okunjena kwenza ukuthi babe sengcephekweni ukuthi bathole igciwane lesifo sengculazi nesandulela. Ngakho ke ngiyafuna ukusho ukuthi kwabesilisa ke ikakhulukazi lapha ngaphandle lolu daba lokuthunjwa kwabantu liyokwehla mhla i-demand ingekho ngoba when the demand is not there, the supply will not be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Minister. Order.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. I want to thank Honorable members for their positive contributions to this afternoon's debate. Let me from the outset express my dismay at the DA's decision to select Honorable Mpambo Sibugwana as their lead speaker during the debate. She lacks depth and her contributions always lower the level of debate of any debate she participates in.
Honorable Minister, please. Honorable Engelbrecht, is that a point of order?
Madam Chair, yes, it is a point of order. I'd like to just query the minister, the Honourable Minister's remark against the DA, the Honourable DA. I'm very sorry, Mr. Minister, Mr. Honourable Minister, but we expect you to respect our honourable members the same way you expect us to respect you. And I ask you to withdraw your comment. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that you speak like that to one of our honourable members.
Honourable Engelbrecht, please take your seats. Please take your seat. Honourable members, take your seats. Take your seats. Honourable Engelbrecht. Order! Honourable Engelbrecht. Honourable Engelbrecht, I'm addressing you. I am addressing you. You stood up on a point of order. That is not a point of order. I have not said you must take that stand. In this house, I make the rulings, or any presiding officer makes the rulings. The Honourable Minister starts a debate. I'm letting that go. It is a point in debate. The fact that the Honourable Member is very new in the House does give her some latitude, but please don't repeat it. Honourable Minister, you are on the floor. Honourable Minister. Honourable Mpambo, which point of order are you raising on?
On a point of order, Chairperson, I would like the Minister to acknowledge the fact that the DA has a freedom of choice on choosing who to speak.
That is
and not
acknowledged,
infringe on the DA's freedom of choice as a human right factor.
That is not a
Honourable
point of
Minister.
order, but I'm sure the Minister has heard you. Minister.
I want to express my dismay at the DA's decision to select Honorable Mpambo Sibugwana as their lead speaker during this debate.
Order.
She lacks depth and her contributions always lower any debate she participates in. She confuses issues and blames this on language incompetence. In actual fact, the honorable member suffers from something worse than language incompetence, and that is idea incompetence. She does disservice to the DA, but they cannot see this. The fact of the matter.
Honorable Minister, your seat, please. Honorable Engelbrecht, I hope it's a point of order this time. You're on the floor,
Madam Chair, yes, thank you very much. I listened with very huge interest in terms of our Honourable Minister's comments.
What is your
obviously,
point of
my
order?
point of order is obviously pointing a finger to himself, Madam Chair.
That is not a point of order. Minister.
The Department of Home Affairs officials are overwhelmingly not corrupt. We have, through our own mechanisms, arrested and dismissed more than 30 officials that were found to be corrupt. That hardly represents even 1% of the Department of Home Affairs staff. The Director General, including myself, never said there were 30,000 incidents of human trafficking. We said there have been many figures cited, including 30,000, but we never said that these figures emanate from us. But the question is...
Honorable Minister, Honorable Faber, you are on your feet. Your point of order.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I would like to know if the Honourable Minister Gigaba would take a question.
Honorable Minister, are you willing to take a question?
No.
Honorable Hatting, you have your hand up.
Honourable Chairperson, I'm new here. I would like to know whether the Minister will take a question from me. He's denied Honourable Faber.
Honorable Minister, do you wish to take a question?
No.
No. Please proceed.
The question is, does it matter if there are 30,000 or 2 or 300 people who have been victims of trafficking? Honorable Faber seems to think so, but in actual fact, it does not matter. One person trafficked is one person too many. Poverty cannot be used as an excuse either, but race, class, and gender dynamics cannot be ignored.
Honorable
Visa
Faber,
regulations.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Faber is on his feet again. Your point of order, sir.
Honourable Chair, I would like to know if
Honorable Shibambo.
If it's parliamentary for the Minister to copy me by saying only one is too many, because that's what I said. He's copying me. I want to know if it's allowed.
Honorable Faber, that is not a point of order. Honorable Minister.
Visa regulations, Honorable Chairperson, are only ridiculous from a white, male, and rich perspective because your risks at that level are low. Therefore, it is not the regulations themselves that are ridiculous, but it is race, class, and the gender position of the people who speak about these issues. Even now, the biggest concern is not the protection of children, but it is the impact of the measures taken to protect the children that are being made the biggest concern. This is what is ridiculous, Honorable Faber, your race, your class, and your gender position in relation to these issues. We need a whole of government, whole of society, and regional international effort to combat trafficking.
Honorable Faber.
Honourable Chair, on a point of order, I think it's very disrespectful of a minister to indicate that because of my race, that I don't take this seriously. I think that is very untrue, and I would like the minister to immediately withdraw that.
Order. The minister said your race, your gender, your whatever, referring, I suspect, to the issues which, not just issues, the criteria and the other matters which are involved. But I do promise that I will come back after I have read the whole of order, members. I will come back and rule on this. I will come back and rule on this matter once I have gone through. As matters stand, order! Honorable Shibukwan. Honorable Engelbrecht.
Madam Chair, yes, I'd like to congratulate the Minister on being
Honorable
elected
Engelbrecht.
as...
Honorable
I'd like to
Engelbrecht,
congratulate
please
the
take
Honourable
your
Minister.
seat. Please
Can I
take your
just have
seat.
my...
Please take your seat. Please take your seat. Please take your seat. It is an instruction, you take your seat when you are told to. Honorable Dlamini, are you on a point of order?
Thank you very much, Chair. With due respect, the member must give herself time to learn how Parliament is being done as compared to the municipality where she is coming from.
Thank you, Honorable Member. That was also not a point of order. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. What we need is a whole of government, whole of society, and regional and international effort to combat trafficking. The trafficking routes on our continent need to be shut down, and every country must demonstrate its commitment towards this effort instead of shutting their eyes if victims of trafficking are being trafficked through their countries. We must intensify our efforts to educate our society about the risks of international crimes and not belittle these. Obviously, the Border Management Agency will go a long way towards addressing this matter, but above all else, we need societal mobilization, capacity building at the level of the state security agencies, as well as international partnerships, particularly with our neighbors. It is important, Chairperson, as the other members have correctly said, that we need to depoliticize the discussion about human trafficking. To think not about our particular ambitions to occupy positions of government or to refrain from political grandstanding when we engage in a matter as important and serious as this one. Because the issues that are involved are so vital that it is unimaginable how one parent who today, at this moment, doesn't know where their child is.
Minister, Honorable Faber is on his feet. Honorable Faber, your point of order. Honorable Faber, you are on the floor.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. If you can protect me by this member.
You are protected against
Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Honourable Ntebe.
If this is such an important matter, I would like to ask the Minister why figures is not important to him.
That is not a point of order. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. We need to spare a moment for a parent who at this moment doesn't know where their child is, who doesn't know what their child is wearing, whether they are warm or not, whether they are being sexually abused or not, whether they had a meal during lunch or not, where they will spend this evening. We need to spare a moment and think about such parents. Political grandstanding and shallowing, lowering the level of the debate on human trafficking is not going to help us. But I can only understand why certain honorable members were made to lead this debate, because where they come from, these issues do not matter, because at the end of the day, it is the race, the class, and the gender position of the parties involved that matter on their attitude towards this critical issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Honourable members, this concludes the debate and the business of the day. I want to thank you, Minister, for availing yourself for this debate. Honourable members, this House is adjourned.